4 animals who went to war and made history. Warrior was born in England before World War I. His owner was Jack Seeley, an officer in the British Army. Seeley was also a politician, and he was deeply devoted to his horse. When the war broke out, the army did not allow officers to take their horses to the front. But Seeley made a decision. I will not go to this war without Warrior. He broke the rules and secretly took Warrior to France. Throughout the war, Warrior pushed through. Artillery barrages, machine gun fire, gas attacks, and trenches filled with mud. Time and again, he found himself right in the middle of explosions. Soldiers beside him died. Horses were torn apart. But Warrior survived every single time. The soldiers gave him a nickname. The horse the Germans could not kill. During one bombardment, Jack Seeley was severely wounded. Warrior was released and ran free. Everyone assumed the horse had been killed. Hours later, Warrior returned, unhurt, searching for his owner. In another incident, a shell exploded right next to Warrior. Everyone around him was killed. Warrior survived again. When World War I ended, only a tiny number of the millions of horses sent to the front ever made it back. Warrior became one of the very few horses that stayed at the front from the first day to the last, and returned to England. Jack Seeley took Warrior home. The horse spent his post-war years in peace. Warrior died in 1941. Later, Jack Seeley turned Warrior's story into a book titled My Horse Warrior. Today, Warrior is remembered as a symbol of courage, loyalty, and the silent witnesses of war. Warrior carried no weapon. He gave no orders. Yet he survived an entire war. Sergeant Stubby, 1917. As World War I tore through Europe, the United States was preparing to enter the war. On the campus of Yale University, where soldiers were training, a stray bulldog wandered among them. Short-tailed, with fearless eyes, this dog had no name. A soldier noticed him, Corporal J. Robert Conroy, and adopted the dog. He named him based on his appearance, Stubby. Stubby trained alongside the soldiers. He learned how to salute. He learned to respond to bugle calls. Without military officials noticing, Stubby was secretly shipped to France with the unit. He became the first unofficial war dog to reach the front lines with the U.S. Army. One of the greatest threats on the Western Front was poison gas attacks. Stubby could detect the smell of gas before humans could. When gas was coming, he began barking and warning the soldiers. Again and again, troops were able to put on their masks in time, saving their lives. In one attack, Stubby himself was affected by gas. But after recovering, he returned to the front. Stubby didn't just warn soldiers. One night, a German spy tried to sneak into American positions. Stubby spotted him, grabbed him by the pants, and held on until soldiers arrived. After that incident, Stubby was officially given a rank, Sergeant. He became one of the first and most famous dogs in history to receive a military rank. Stubby took part in 17 major battles. He earned many medals. He was wounded in war, but continued his service. After the war, he was welcomed as a hero in America. He marched in parades. He was saluted by generals. Stubby died in 1926. Today, he is preserved at the Smithsonian National Museum. Sergeant Stubby carried no weapon, but with his instincts, courage, and loyalty, he saved the lives of hundreds of soldiers. Cher Ami, 1918. The bloodiest days of World War I. In France's Argonne Forest, A unit of the U.S. Army is trapped behind German lines. Around 550 soldiers face enemy fire and starvation. Then, it gets worse. The American artillery, having lost contact with the unit, begins mistakenly shelling its own troops. There is no radio, no help. The last hope, carrier pigeons. The first 2 pigeons are shot down. Only 1 pigeon remains, Cher Ami. The commander writes one final message. We are Americans. We are being shelled by our own artillery. Stop the fire. Cher Ami takes off. But the Germans notice him. He is shot in the chest. One eye is blinded, one leg is torn off. Yet he does not fall. He completes the roughly 25-kilometer flight, critically wounded. The message arrives. The artillery fire stops. Around 200 American soldiers survive. Cher Ami is honored by France with the Croix de Guerre, War Cross. After the war, he is taken to the United States, but he dies shortly after, succumbing to his wounds. Today, Cher Ami is displayed at the Smithsonian Museum. Cher Ami carried no weapon. He gave no orders. But with a single message, he changed the course of history. Wojtek. World War II. When Poland was invaded by Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union in 1939, many Poles from Soviet-controlled territories were arrested and deported to Siberia. But the balance of power shifted in 1941 when Germany attacked the Soviet Union. The Soviets signed the Sikorsky-Maysky Agreement with the Polish government in London, initiating an amnesty process for Poles in Soviet camps. This allowed Anders's army to be established on Soviet territory. However, the army's supply and equipment, as well as political tensions with the Soviets, were immense. As a solution, and under British influence, it was decided to withdraw the troops from the Soviet Union and transfer them to Iran. General Władysław Anders evacuated 74,000 soldiers and 41,000 civilians to Iran. An army whose homeland has been occupied is trying to survive in exile. And within that army, there is a bear, Wojtek. Polish soldiers adopt a bear cub and was raised by the soldiers, and the soldiers treated him like a brother. They name him Wojtek. Over time, he begins to imitate humans. He stands upright, copies soldiers' movements. Some stories even claim he wrestled with the soldiers, drank beer, and smokes cigarettes. As Wojtek grows, taking him everywhere becomes difficult. One account suggests that British military rules restricted carrying a mascot, so the soldiers officially register Wojtek as a private in the unit. Service number, rank, everything. The Corps moves to the Italian front. Mountains, rain, mud. The Monte Cassino line cannot be broken for months. For Polish troops, it is both a strategic target and a powerful symbol. Wojtek is associated with the 2nd Polish Corps, specifically the 22nd Artillery Supply Transport Company. This detail matters because the legend of him carrying ammunition is tied to the work of this unit. Wojtek begins carrying ammunition crates, imitating the soldiers, even under fire. The story grows so large that the unit's emblem becomes a bear carrying an artillery shell. The war ends, but not everyone can go home. For many Polish soldiers, the homeland now lies under a different political shadow. And for Wojtek, when soldier life ends, where can he go? Sources describe the unit being stationed near Winfield Camp in Scotland, and Wojtek becoming a familiar figure known by local people as well. Eventually, in 1947, Wojtek is placed in the Edinburgh Zoo, and the most touching detail, former soldiers visit him. According to accounts, When he hears Polish accents, he still lifts his head and pays attention. Wojtek's story is far more than a bear that fought. It represents the morale, comradeship, and humanity of an army in exile. If you enjoyed the documentary, you can subscribe to receive more videos. So long for now.